Hey, so a bit of a different intro for the podcast, because I'm post recording this. Essentially, I try to use my camera and tripod so I could record a video for me and use it for the YouTube version of the podcast. And sadly, I was running into some problems with the editing and I can't seem to figure them out. So it's just going to be, all audio across my Spotify and my YouTube channel, but I will figure something out so that I can incorporate video instead of just relying on Zoom. But regardless, I worked really, really hard on this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you, and I'll see you in the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the I Am Passionate podcast. It's your host, Jared Smith, on screen this time. And yes, I am solo. I hooked up my camera, hooked up my tripod, got to figure out a slightly better setup, but I got pretty much everything as good as I can get it. So record today's podcast episode, which I hope you enjoy. It's another football episode, and very likely that right after I'm done with the football episode, I will record my episode for Saturday. So we have a good bit to talk about besides for just, week 10 NFL action. Last week, went 9-4. Really just going to discuss the four losses. The Saints losing to the Panthers. Wow, I did not expect it. Even though the Saints, they have just been going downhill since they beat the Cowboys. I mean, they are on a 7-game losing streak. Cam Jordan, the Saints defensive end, tweeted that, wow, we just lost to the Panthers, which I've never seen that before. Most players would keep that to themselves. And I think J.C. Horn, the Panthers corner, quoted the tweet and, was talking smack, which, I kind of thought was a little funny. The Browns, ironically, I had originally picked the Chargers, but I did not think that the Chargers passing game would be able to, pop off. So, but, they didn't really. I'm pretty sure J.K. Dobbins had a decent game. So, and Jameis Winston, I believe he threw 3 picks. He threw 3 picks against the Chargers, but not against the Ravens, sadly. Also, even though can't see the whole thing, my Ravens thing, I've worn this in a little bit. We'll talk about my Ravens soon, though. The Patriots, Drake May on that last play, that was incredible that he bought that much time. But the fact that they lost in overtime didn't surprise me. The Bears, all I got to say about the Bears is fire. Matt Eberflus, Shane Waldron, they need to be left. They should have been left in Washington. But they also, Shane Waldron should have been left in freaking Arizona. Just wow. Just wow. Like, I do believe Matt Eberflus would be a good defensive coordinator. I mean, he came from Indianapolis as a defensive coordinator. I think he's a good coordinator. I don't think he's a good head coach. I think he needs to go. I don't think that Caleb Williams will turn into Caleb Williams with Matt Eberflus and Shane Waldron in Chicago. And last is Seattle, really just crumbling. I thought their defense would play a little bit better against, the Rams. Also, I believe Puka Nacua got ejected from, punching a Seattle player, but don't really have much to say about that. And for the next part of the podcast, we're going to discuss the trade deadline, which I have my phone in front of me, and I'm looking at Adam Schefter's Instagram post from 2 days ago, which had wrapped up the NFL trade deadline, which I'll read all the names and the teams that they went to, and also maybe try to throw the teams that they're from. So Washington traded for Marshawn Lattimore. I believe they had to send like a 3rd round, 4th round, and 6th round pick. The Jets, Davante Adams, which that happened about a week or two ago. DeAndre Hopkins going to Kansas City. It happened last week. Amari Cooper to Buffalo. Happened, I believe, last week. Deontay Johnson, happened before, last week's games. Mike Williams going to Pittsburgh. That happened, the day of the deadline. Preston Smith going to Pittsburgh. Did not expect that one. He was on Green Bay. Zadarius Smith to Detroit. I've been seeing some things that a lot of people were like, this should happen because, Detroit, including Aiden Hutchinson, they need to fill that void. And Zadarius Smith does do it. Khalil Davis to San Fran. I'm not familiar with who Khalil Davis is, so I can't really grade that. Jonathan Mingo to Dallas. A lot of people were clowning Dallas. I know who Jonathan Mingo is, and I saw some things that maybe Dallas was pretty high on him when he was drafted. I think fans are not really happy about it. Josh Uche to Kansas City. The name sounds familiar, but I'm not 100% sure about the team that he came from. Cam Robinson to Minnesota, which we saw when they were playing the Colts, that was a very good trade, just because they're starting left tackle. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. He had tore his ACL and MCL, so this was a pretty big trade for them. And yeah, no, he played well on Sunday night. And also, if you see me kind of looking this way, I'm recording essentially the audio twice, mostly just because the video is going to be for YouTube, and then the other audio is just going to be for Spotify. So keeping it going, Tre'Davious White going to my Baltimore Ravens. Baron Browning, who played for Denver, going to Arizona. A lot of people I have been seeing talking about that this was a sleeper trade. I'm familiar with Baron Browning. I can't really say too much though. Cam Akers going to Minnesota, which he had a pretty decent game. Khalil Herbert to Cincinnati. I really thought Khalil Herbert should have been more involved in the Bears. But I think that Khalil Herbert has a chance to shine with Cincy. Obviously, I hope he doesn't play well tonight, just because the Ravens play Cincinnati tonight. We'll talk about that more in a couple of minutes. But I think overall he'll shine. Ernest Jones, the name sounds familiar. I can't 100% think of what team he played for before. Going to Seattle. Roy Robertson Harris also going to Seattle, so that's a big pass rusher. And Jerome Baker going to Tennessee. So those are all pretty much the trade deadline stuff. We're going to be seeing a lot of, rumors and like, okay, this team could have gotten this person, so on and so forth. And so to talk about some of my winners, I don't really have any clear-cut losers, because I feel like for the losers, you'd have to wait and see. And yes, for some of the winners, there's not enough time has passed. But some of my winners, Kansas City, getting DeAndre Hopkins, it obviously helps their wide receiver room. They're pretty beat up on their wide receiving core. And yes, I don't want Kansas City to win a Super Bowl. Even if the Ravens don't do it, seeing somebody new win the Super Bowl, that is my biggest hope. But DeAndre Hopkins massively helps out that wide receiver room. The Ravens, getting Tre'Davious White, I believe just for like a 7th-round pick, and, Deontay Johnson, I think they're huge. I think the Ravens still needed a pass rusher more than anything, because I saw a stat that when 3rd and long, the Ravens defense is on the field, opposing quarterbacks have almost 4 seconds to throw the football. That is insane. And just to put that in reference, if you were able to watch the Bucs and Chiefs game on Monday night, there was a graphic saying that Baker Mayfield was getting rid of the ball in about 2.2 seconds. On some of his throws, it wasn't even 2 seconds. So that's essentially double the time. That's an eternity to sit back in the pocket and dissect the defense. But I do think getting Tre'Davious White will help, because the Ravens have the worst passing defense in the league. And I think it'll allow Marlon Humphrey, because Marlon Humphrey a lot plays in the slot. So I think it'll allow him to, stay in the slot and guard those threats, while Tre'Davious White, say, takes the left side and Brandon Stephens takes the right side, or vice versa. So I think it'll allow them to, stick to receivers a little bit more, and also free up Kyle Hamilton to, just fly around the field a little bit more, because I do think the players the Ravens have in their secondary, I think they are good. I just think the Ravens are missing Mike Macdonald as their coordinator. I don't think Zach Orr is doing bad. I just think it's one of those, it's growing pains. You're a new coach. I know he's been on coaching staffs. I just think this is his first defensive coordinator job. And in year 2 of this defense, regardless of what happens the rest of this season, I think the Ravens defense will take a true step up. And, going on to Pittsburgh, they've been needing to bolster their wide receiver room. They've got like good pieces, but, compared to years past, it hasn't been the Steelers wide receiving room as we would have normally seen in the past. So George Pickens, a great contested catcher, and also trading for Mike Williams, another great contested catcher. So a pass catcher. So I think that'll make them really, really hard to guard. The 50-50 balls are going to be insane with Russell Wilson, just because, throughout his career, he's been known as the deep ball thrower. So I think that'd be good. And also getting Preston Smith. I already thought the Steelers had a great D-line, but literally they can just send waves at you, because I don't think Preston Smith is bad, even though he's getting up there in age. I don't know his age off the top of my head. But, think about it. You're going to have TJ Watt. You're going to have Cam Hayward, who's having a great year. You're going to have Alex Highsmith. having a great year, and Preston Smith. So Preston Smith a lot likely is going to be facing, one-on-one blocks because it's literally going to be pick your poison. So I don't know what Preston Smith's stats are like as of this season, but I expect them to go up. And then Washington getting Marshawn Lattimore, that's a huge boost because I saw some things that, Washington plays a lot of man coverage. And, their defense, they've been playing really, really good because of Dan Quinn being a defensive minded head coach. And I think Marshawn Lattimore will allow them to play, more man coverage. And I saw other stats saying that when targeted, Marshawn Lattimore in man coverage, if he's not the best statistical cornerback in football, he's definitely up there. Can't say that for certain. But the losers, it'd be a little too hard to tell as of right now. More time needs to pass for me to undisputedly say that, okay, I think this team lost the trade deadline. And another winner I'll potentially throw in there, even though it doesn't seem like it, I'll say the Browns. Why are you saying that, Jaron? Well, they got some picks for Amari Cooper, who I believe was 31, and they got some picks for Za'Darius Smith, who was 33. Za'Darius Smith had another year on his contract, I believe. I'm not sure about Amari Cooper, but it allows them to get younger essentially, and I'm sure that both of their contracts allowed getting rid of them allowed the Browns to free up some cap space. So I'd say that it might not seem like a winner today. It will seem like a winner come draft time. And so now, just talking about the football games of the week. Later tonight, the Bengals are going to Baltimore. I think this game is going to be huge. When they played the first time, Joe Burrow had said that he needs to play damn near perfect, which he almost did. One bad play in regulation extended that game, which I understand. That's all it takes sometimes. One bad play. But this game, I don't think it'll be as high scoring. I think the Bengals will come out, hungry for a win. But I think if this game is close, like if the Bengals don't outright come and punch the Ravens in the mouth, I think come the fourth quarter, I think Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson on the ground game, I think they'll take over. So I'm going to take the Ravens, just because I wonder how well that defense will hold up for 4 full quarters. I do think this would be a great game, though. I think this would be one of the good Thursday night football games we've gotten this year because we've had a couple of good ones. Not all of them have been snooze fests. So for the Germany game on Sunday, I believe it's in Germany, Munich. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Giants versus the Panthers. I honestly feel like this is a complete toss-up just because, both teams are not very good. I'm going to make the Giants just because I feel like Daniel Jones will have a decent game. I feel like he'll have some time to sit back and throw the football. But, hey, I could be completely wrong because that Giants O-line, I feel like the Giants offensive line, when I've gotten to watch Giants games, hasn't been 100% terrible, but, they look bad when it matters most. So I think it's a toss-up. I'm going to pick the Giants. But I also do think, I think the Giants will win. But if the Panthers win, if I'm wrong, I'll be happy because I want Bryce Young to have a great career. Because last week when they beat the Saints, it was his first victory formation in the NFL. Hopefully we can keep seeing more of those. So other Sunday games, the Patriots versus the Bears. Give me the Bears. I think this will be a bounce-back game despite me saying that the Bears need to fire their head coach and offensive coordinator. I think the Patriots, Drake May will look good, but I don't think he'll, throw the ball over the yard type of thing. I think the Bears will kind of come out hungry, trying to, get back into the swing of things because they're 4-2. They lost 2 straight. They're trying to keep up in the division, and, the NFC North is the best division in football this year. So I think the Bears will get this dub. I will say it'll seem kind of like, what are the Bears doing? Then they'll kind of tighten up and play normal Bears football. I do see somebody on that Bears defense getting a pick 6. I do see somebody. I do. I really, really do. Next game, we've got the 49ers versus the Buccaneers. I'm going to pick the 49ers just because the Buccaneers are so beat up. And, also speaking of the Buccaneers, Jaron, do you think, I've said that wrong. Do I think that the Buccaneers should have gone for 2? My dad asked me because I was sitting next to him watching the game, and then, other family members asked me. I said yes and no. Yes, because it's like you're on the road, you're down, Chris Godwin, you're down Mike Evans, you're down. I think most of the defense was healthy, despite what their initial injury reports would look like. And you're also down Jalen McMillan, I believe that's his name. You're down your top 3 pass catchers. You were looking good all night, so that's all the reasons why you should. The reasons why I would say you shouldn't, I was thinking more so of Kansas City having 3 timeouts. And, in the second half, when the Chiefs were playing, I feel like they were able to move the ball pretty easily. And I wasn't more so thinking of the Chiefs and Bills game for 2 years ago, 13 seconds. I wasn't more so thinking of that. I more so was thinking it's like if the Chiefs had to go for a touchdown, like if the Bucks went for 2, got it, and they had a touchdown lead, then like, oh yes, 100% go for that 2-point conversion. But since they only needed a field goal, I'm like, I don't know. And also the Chiefs had all 3 timeouts. That's why I'm in the middle ground saying yes and no. And ultimately, I don't see anything wrong with Todd Bowles, the Buccaneers head coach, trusting their defense to, go out there, get that stop, and, also to play for overtime. Like, I get it. I really, really do. And, like, I don't find anything wrong with that. The only thing that, I guess that is wrong with that is that they're now 4-5. And the NFC playoff picture, it's looking, I believe it's looking a little bit more rough compared to the AFC. I just think the AFC will have a lot more teams sneak in compared to the NFC side. But 49ers and Bucks, I'm going to take the 49ers. I think that, I think they'll play well. I think they'll look a little bit better than the Chiefs did. And also, I've seen some videos. Christian McCaffrey was practicing this week. He was last year's Offensive Player of the Year. I think if he plays, which I 100% believe he will be on the pitch count. There's no way he's not whenever he plays, because it'll be his first snaps all year, 100%. So I would not start Christian McCaffrey if you have him in fantasy. That's just me. But hey, I can be proven wrong because my fantasy football luck this year has been bad. But hey, I'm on the ups though. I'm on the ups. Give me the 49ers. Broncos versus Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs. I do think that the Broncos, even despite getting beat 41-10 to my Ravens last week, I think Bo Nix did look good against the Ravens. I don't think he'll look as good going into Arrowhead. Give me the Chiefs. Bills versus Colts. Give me the Bills. Josh Allen's playing pretty good football this year. I think that'll continue. Steelers versus Commanders. This is my 100% game of the week. I think this will be a really, really good game. I honestly don't know who I should pick to win, because the Steelers under Russell Wilson have been looking good. The Commanders have been looking really good also. And then if the Commanders win and the Ravens, if they're able to win tonight, it helps them out tremendously. But if the Steelers win, that'll help, they'll keep having that one up on the Ravens. So I'm not sure. It would be interesting to see the Commanders win, because this might be a tiebreaker if the Ravens and Steelers end up with the same record. I honestly have no idea. I'm going to go with my gut here and say I'm going to pick the Commanders to win this football game. But I really think this game is 50-50. I think this is arguably the most 50-50 game of the week. If somebody was leaving a comment saying, oh, Jaron, you're wrong, Steelers are going to win, and that person who would leave that comment, actually, it wouldn't even be my brother. It wouldn't. But my brother is a Steelers fan, so he's commented on a couple of my videos before. Shout out to you, Cam. So going on to the Vikings and Jaguars, I'm going to pick the Vikings. The Jaguars have been playing better football as of recent weeks, playing more tough. They haven't just been getting punched in the mouth. I think the Vikings are going to play a pretty good football game. They're going to, get out to, say, like a 10-0 lead and just not really look back. Titans versus Chargers. Give me the Chargers. Chargers defense has been playing good all year. I believe I don't remember the stat I saw exactly, but they are not allowing a lot of points this year. I think that'll continue. Jets versus Cardinals is another one of my game picks of the week. I don't think this is as much of a game of the week as the Steelers versus Commanders game. I'm picking the Cardinals to win this game just because I feel like they're slowly on the rise. They're kind of one of those, not saying people are sleeping on them, but it's like if they keep on the path that they're on, a lot of people will be like, dang, the Cardinals are 8-4. I think it'll be something like that. I do think the Jets have a good chance to win this game. I did not expect them to beat I did not expect the Jets to beat the Texans on Halloween night. I understand that Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs were out. I did not expect the Jets to win simply just because they're the Jets. But I mean, hey, if they're able to keep playing, good football, I don't see why they couldn't win. Eagles versus Cowboys, I'm picking the Eagles. If Dak Prescott was playing, I'd think about it a little bit more. But I'm going to pick the Eagles. And also, Saquon Barkley. The backwards hurdle is in my top 3 most athletic things I've ever seen. Like, it was just insane. The fact, I highly doubt he was thinking of doing that. Like, you don't just go into a football game and say, oh, I'm going to do this, like, specifically. Like, the fact that he did a backwards hurdle, it's already hard enough to hurdle somebody the normal way. But the fact that he was like he's facing the opposite way, backwards hurdled, and they got a couple extra yards, you gotta be kidding me, man. Definitely, honestly, unless something crazy happens, I understand that was only for like a first down, maybe a little bit more. That's got to be play of the year. That's got to be like up there, and like just the sheer how difficult that is. That is why I'm saying it. Now I'm sure it's not going to get play of the year because it didn't result in a touchdown, but it deserves to be in the conversation. So moving on to Lions versus Texans, I'm going to pick the Lions, even though that they are traveling to Houston. If Nico Collins plays, I think this game will be a lot closer because CJ Stroud looked better when Nico Collins was playing compared to when he was not playing. And I understand most quarterbacks are going to look better when they have their top option. But I also think the Texans' O-line has not been doing them any favors. And I recently had a conversation with my brother that the Texans' O-line, I believe, will be their downfall. Last year, that they played really, really well. I feel like the offensive line did not play as bad as they are playing this year. So I think that, the Texans' O-line, do I trust them to hold up for 4 quarters against the Lions? I'm not sure. I'm going to pick the Lions. I do think this will be a close game, though. I think that, Jared Goff has been playing really, really well this year. He should be 100% in the MVP conversation. And being as unbiased as possible, Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff should be the top 2. If you were to say that Jared Goff is number 1 and Lamar Jackson is number 2, that's fair. I cannot disagree with that. Because I think they're the 2 best quarterbacks statistically and like when you watch them. I think they're both playing the best football. Josh Allen also deserves to be up there. He's playing some pretty good football too. And the crazy thing is, like, he had a throw against the Dolphins, which I saw the highlights of it. I'm like, why the heck did you throw that? It ended up in a touchdown. He's literally a big little kid running around, making crazy plays, playing backyard football. But enough of that. Going on to the Monday Night Football game between the Dolphins and the Rams. I'm going to pick the Rams. I feel like with Tua, back-to-back weeks, the Dolphins offense, the team has just come alive, which, I expected because, they have their quarterback back. But I'm not sure how their defense is going to hold up to the Rams. DeMarcus Robinson's, been balling out. Puka Nacua, as long as, when he plays, he's been a baller. And Cooper Kupp, he's still that guy. So I'm going to pick the Rams. I think the Rams triple-headed receiving monster is going to be too much for the Dolphins, even though the Dolphins do have Jalen Ramsey. I'm not 100% sure how Jalen Ramsey's playing this year, but regardless, I'm going to pick the Rams. And yeah, we'll see how my game picks go. Last week I was 9-4, and we'll just see how they go. And I just want to say thank you all for watching the first solo video podcast. I really, really appreciate it. And, leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube and let me know how you think of this. Spotify, you're just going to be getting the audio, which I will make sure I put the links to my YouTube channel and Spotify channel so that you can watch the different versions of them. But I just want to say thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.